Hey, Slater Crusaders. America's the greatest country in the world. All right, well, that was, if you heard yesterday's pre-debate show, that was why I never get excited about anything. That was Mayweather-Pacquiao. Huge expectations, ended up being a total waste of time. There's a million things to talk about. Let's do this and get this off my chest and out of the way. I'm really not one to complain about the moderator. It's like in sports, right? It's always the losers who's complaining about the refs, right? Whoever won isn't complaining about the refs. I had no intention of complaining about the moderator before the debate. I started a little bit late because I was with the kids, and I kept hearing everyone complain about Chris Wallace, and I thought, oh, come on, like how bad can he be? He was the problem. I don't let me just start with Jesse here. This is Jesse Kelly. He said this: I'll never understand political people who whine about a rowdy presidential debate. This is as good as it gets. This is politics. It's a contact sport. Stop this childlike pining for a more polite age that never existed. Jefferson and Adams accused each other of pedophilia. All I hear is people whining because there's so much interrupting. Yeah, let's get moving here. Let's get to the point. Who decided that the ultimate sin of human interaction is the interruption? Right? It's like, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not interrupt when someone says that you called veterans losers. Let them finish! It was Chris Wallace who acted like every time Trump interrupted, it's like Wallace acted like Trump was stabbing Biden in the neck up on stage. Like, whoa, Mr. President, just let him go. Let him go back and forth. They'll figure it out. Chris Wallace the other day said his goal was to be invisible. His goal was to be invisible. He wouldn't stop talking. I said yesterday, I said two things Trump needs to do. First, he needs to be on the offensive. It's like 70 to 80% of the time, Trump needs to be on the offensive. And Trump needs to be like all the great performers and own the stage. So all the great performers in pop culture, right? So I think of people like Robin Williams or Rodney Dangerfield, Howard Stern, Jim Carrey even, right? When they go to an interview on like a late night talk show or something, they're the guest, but they always ask the first question. To see this, the best example of this is David Letterman's Netflix show, and Howard Stern was the guest. And Howard Stern comes out on the stage and immediately asks Letterman, I think it was about his beard. But the point is, he immediately took the stage. Howard Stern, he owned the whole thing. He was the guest, but he quickly became the interviewer, immediately became the interviewer. Seinfeld did the same thing on Stern's show. Jerry Seinfeld walks out, immediately starts talking and asking Howard Stern questions before Stern can even say anything. The great performers own the stage. And you'll notice here on this show, the really good performers say something before I even get to say something. Who was it the other day that did that? Do you remember? Oh. I forget who it was. Darn it. We had someone who talked before I even said anything, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to be really good. And I suggested that Trump do that and own the stage by forget about Chris Wallace. He wants to be invisible, right? And just ask Biden questions. But Wallace wouldn't allow it because Wallace had to finish his precious question. Right? So that was it. That's my key word of the day. Chris Wallace had to finish his precious question, and Chris Wallace had to stay on his precious format. The entire evening had to be this cookie cutter, finely tuned and exchange of talking points, right? So Wallace asks a question, Biden gets 2 minutes of talking points, and then Biden asks a question, and then Trump gets a minute, and then Biden gets 30 seconds, and then Wallace gets it, and we go back and forth, and we volley back and forth like some sort of old ladies playing pickleball for 90 minutes. And we have to do this, I go, you go, I go, you go, I go, don't interrupt, I go, you go, don't say anything, I go, and it's like, what is that? Why? Why is that what last night should have been? And anytime it deviated from that, that's when Chris Wallace would interject and ruin the whole thing. Why? Who said that that's what we have to do? Anytime Trump tried to deviate from that, Wallace was acting like Trump was violating the most holy of scriptures. That's why it was so frustrating to watch. So here's a moment. This was early on. This is like 10 minutes into the whole thing. And I think it shows this pretty nicely here.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
Obamacare.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people with
President, I'm the moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go ahead.
Oh, the precious question, right? Just get to the point, Chris. What do you like? And you see Trump at one point, he's like, well, let me ask Joe. Right? He tried to just like own the stage. Let me ask Joe. And no, I'm the moderator. I have to ask the question. You don't have a comprehensive plan. Like, yeah, of course Trump's gonna come out and disagree. You think Trump's just gonna take that? He's just gonna take the moderator, his little pipsqueak moderator in the audience, and say, you don't have a comprehensive plan. Trump's gonna be like, okay, go ahead. Please finish, please finish. He's like, of course I do. What are you talking about? Can't interrupt. So Wallace, here it is. So after that ridiculous back and forth, which wasn't necessary at all, right? If Wallace just let him go and then let Trump ask Biden, like, Biden, what do you think? And then Biden would go, and then Trump would go, and then Biden would go, and we'd have like a conversation. No, Wallace, let me ask the question. So Wallace finally gets to ask his long-winded question, and here it is.
In the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Oh, that was it. That was it. That was the so important question that you had to get in all those initial jabs in, right? Calling it largely symbolic. You've never had a comprehensive plan. Let Biden say those things. That's Biden's job to bring that stuff up. Why did you need to interject them at all? But that was the so important build-up to the question of, what's your healthcare plan? Get out of here. Just come out with that, Wallace. That's you think you're so important. You're so important, you got to throw in these jabs first? Just say, hey, Mr. President, what's your healthcare plan? Boom, done. It was like 0.5 seconds. Mr. I want to be invisible. Give me a break. Here's how Trump responded.
First of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices.
That was it, right? And I think that was the moment of the debate when Trump was like, whatever. And I think the viewers were too. Because it was so clear at that point that come hell or high water, Chris Wallace was gonna do everything possible to keep it within his vision of what the debate should be and the format it must follow. And if anyone interrupts anyone, I'm interjecting to get back to my preordained, oh so precious desire as to what this might be. And I think that ruined the whole thing. People think the problem was the interrupting, but it wasn't the interrupting. The real issue was Wallace kept making a federal case out of it. All right, we got a few more clips. Here's another one.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting than he has.
Well, that's all right, but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less than
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on.
What is that? But that's what I'm talking about, the precious format, right? So he had to come in the middle of the debate and lecture the president. I think that the country would be best served. Oh, do you? Just let him go. It's a weird thing, and maybe we could talk about this a little later. It's like a weird thing to debate. Like you're up on a stage with no audience, so like why are we even doing the stage thing? Behind a podium, your opponent's way over there, and you got to do this like weird volley back and forth, and the camera's here, and who are you talking to, and there's no crowd. It's like a weird dynamic. And there's nothing else like it. It doesn't relate to any other aspect of life or being a president even. So it's a stupid thing to be even doing. But give him a little grace in the sense that it like takes a minute or two to like find a vibe for everyone. So like let him go, and it would be ugly for a while, but then it would work itself out. And they would figure out the back and forth and the flow and the energy of it all. But Walz wouldn't let that. It had to be exactly what I say it is. And here's the worst of it. This is the amazing question to Biden. The question was, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted. Whatever you do, do not interrupt. Here's what happened.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can
Because-
you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That was a
not yelling
rhetorical
at the
question.
whistle.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
A scold. What a scold from Chris Wallace. So Biden, just to be clear, Biden can call Trump Putin's puppy. And by the way, so the problem with this volley back and forth that Chris Wallace so badly wanted was it just sets up talking points, right? You get your 2 minutes. Don't interrupt anyone. And what did he do with it? That's when Biden did this whole like, oh, you know, we're weaker, sicker, more divided. He just went right back to an old talking point, rehearsed thing, right? The interruptions allow for a more real exchange back and forth because everyone's throwing each other off balance, right? So Biden can call Trump Putin's puppy and talk about the absurdity, this absurd claim of Russian bounties. And Trump can't interject at all in the midst of that without a scolding from Chris Wallace. Mr. President, how dare he? Come on. I don't think the evening would have been that bad if they were just able to go. Jesse had another great point. He said, I don't watch these debates to be enlightened or hear candidates actually answer the question. And if you do, that's on you. They're not gods or kings. They're just like you and your buddies arguing. So why do we have to put this whole like thing around it? Like, oh, the sacred debate format. David Reboy, we got coming up in a minute here, and he wrote last night, he said, I'd love to talk to the person at the RNC, the Republican Party responsible for negotiating the debate. It's like, why do you do this? Why do you set this up? My wife last night, who doesn't watch any of this stuff, she said, didn't Chris Wallace do terrible in 2016 too? And I was like, oh, I don't really remember that, but yeah, probably. Reboy said, why do you, Republican Party, why do you habitually fail your candidates and your voters? Why would you agree to this format? Because I think that's it. I think it's the format. No, these debates have no resemblance whatsoever to real life. It has no resemblance to being a president. Just have the candidates sit down at a table and talk to each other. Just go back and forth. And the moderator should have almost no role whatsoever. Let them spar. I don't care if they spar for 20 minutes of talking over it. Just let them do it. It'll work itself out. Imagine an MMA fight, right? MMA fight where the ref, every time they touched each other, the referee would come and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. No. You get 2 minutes. Let him punch you uninterrupted for 2 minutes. Okay, you get the 2. Okay, no, stop. Now you go. No, let him fight. It's going to be some ugly moments. They'll talk over each other. Who cares? Just let it go. It'll smooth itself out. And they'll find a rhythm. But Wallace wouldn't let him find a rhythm because he had to be the center of attention and make himself invisible at the same time. So self-important. Had to live up to his father's legacy. Chris Wallace thought everyone would care about him and his precious format, but no one cares about Chris Wallace and the precious format. Let the two people who want to be president go at it. Get out of the way already, jeez. All right, gotta go. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Senator Crusaders, I got 2 clips I want to play in this segment from last night. One more just to prove my point that I've been making here of a moment when they just could have gone back and forth, and it would have been fine if Wallace did not butt in. Here it is.
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
is
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that-
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
it is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
my
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
the only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
some-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under.
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath, and his administration said, "I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know
honorably."
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
well,
good
here's
job.
The,
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
said-
You get
here's the
the, wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No. I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
See, I really think that would have been an okay exchange if Wallace wasn't interjecting the whole time, trying to give everyone their allotted time uninterrupted or whatever. Just let him go. Let him go. I think a few more minutes of that, and a few more minutes of that, and Biden would have said, all right, Trump, you're going to let me talk now. And then Trump would have let it go without Chris Wallace being, hold on, Mr. President, all right, beating that horse. One last clip, and this is worse than just Wallace interjecting all the time. This is a straight up bailout. Here it is.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
Look,
Name
folks,
one law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't think
role,
there are
and
any.
I want to get to another subject.
Why? Why take back the moderator's role? What are you doing? Let it go. Why would you even feel the need to interject there? Because his guy was drowning, couldn't answer it, didn't want to answer it, so he felt the need to interject. Why? All right. By the way, I don't write these, but that's pretty good. It's a good job, guys. That's nice. Right before that, how much time we got? You got some guests coming up, but remember when Wallace called it racial sensitivity training? Racial insensitivity training, are you kidding me? All this critical race theory stuff that we've been covering nonstop that says all white people are racist and everything, all that. Wallace called it racial insensitivity training. And then Wallace did this thing where he asked Trump, he said, oh, Mr. President, you keep saying that violent crime is increasing in Democratic-run cities, but there's been a rise in crime in Republican cities too, like Tulsa. Tulsa? Who's ever, we're gonna talk, what is that, Tulsa? We're gonna compare Tulsa with LA? You're gonna compare Tulsa with Chicago? Tulsa, get out of here. Like, what is that? Who's ever thought of Tulsa? Have you ever heard that talking point in your life? Where does he even get that? Who's been the person that's like, hey, there's a huge violent spike of violent crime increase in places like Chicago and LA, these Democratic-run cities. Oh yeah, but Tulsa too. And then we'll talk about this with David Reboy coming up in a minute here about the Russian bounties. There's no evidence that that's ever happened. Biden talks about how Antifa is an idea and not an organization. We'll talk more about the gotcha question tomorrow about when Wallace says, will you condemn white supremacists? White supremacists, give me a break. That is such an inconsequential group, the Proud Boys. That was entirely brought up to make it seem, this is why the Democrats do this, to make it seem like not all the violence and destruction is caused by the left, which it obviously is. All the violence, all the destruction, all the looting and rioting, it's all caused by people on the left. And the media can't overlook it, right? They can do their whole mostly peaceful protest thing, but it can't be denied that there is violence and rioting going on. So the media can't ignore it. So the only thing they have left is to say, well, it's also right-wingers doing it too. And the way to really prove that is to make the president condemn it. You're like, that's Proud Boys, come on. Biden brought up that hoax about the Atlantic article, losers and suckers, it never happened. What is this? And the biggest hoax of all, the biggest hoax of the last 4 years was the Charlottesville find people on both sides hoax. We're not going to go over it now, but Chris Wallace brought that up. Chris Wallace brought that up. Trump clearly condemned the white supremacists back then when that happened. He was clearly referring to the fine people on both sides of the issue about the statue, which is what this whole thing was all about. There were fine people who want the statue of Robert E. Lee to be taken down, and there were fine people who wanted the statue to be left up. Clearly, that's what he was talking about. Media today, they're all about, Trump told the Proud Boys to stand back. Okay, sure, but then Trump asked Biden to condemn Antifa, and Biden denied their existence. No pushback from Wallace on that. People talking about Joe Rogan doing this. Listen, Joe Rogan's not like some magical superhero that would save the day here. It's not really Joe Rogan, although I think so. He's a good, curious guy, and I think he would be a good moderator. It's more just it's the whole thing. It's the mood, it's the environment, it's the format, environment. I combined environment and format. It's the environment, it's the format, it's the length of it, right? We got to be able to get in some depth. It's the free-flowingness of the conversation. Just let it go where it goes, right? Who cares? You get a preordained block of 15 minutes for this topic, and heaven forbid we go over on this topic over here. Just let it go, Wallace. Let it go where it goes. I don't know. Listen, Trump didn't do great. Don't get me wrong. He didn't do himself any favors, which is what we said yesterday would probably be the case. Trump's not very good at these things. But the whole thing, just Wallace with the format combined, I don't know why do we keep doing it this way. The only hope we have is that it was so bad it unified the country, and it was like a rock bottom moment that we all have to hit rock bottom, because only now can we repent and try something completely new. True story, Mike Slater. Spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, I want to bring in one of our favorite guests, David Reboy. He's a national security analyst, political consultant. Dave Reboy, R-E-A-B-O-I on the Twitter. Dave, how are you, brother?
Good. How's it going?
So, good. So we spent especially the first segment, talking about the format and how this format is just, it has no resemblance to anything that exists in real life or the job of the presidency, and there's no reason to be doing it like this anyway at all. And we talked about Chris Wallace and his precious questions and his precious format that he had to stick with. That was the 10-second recap. What's your take on this format?
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's a format that is totally old and antiquated. And as people have been saying, it's that, I mean, you can't have the president or whichever debater get cut off constantly by the moderator. I mean, as you said, that's not a real life situation. Let these guys go at it. Let them have more than 2 minutes, because in 2 minutes, what you're basically doing is you're getting television. And this is the way these people think. These people think that it's still basically the televisual age, and you have 2 minutes to make a point. shows like yours and podcasts like Joe Rogan's and things like that, they're successful because they let things play out over a longer period of time. People like to listen to podcasts and longer things because they get more than 2 minutes. I mean, we have 10 minutes that we'll be talking here. There's no TV news channel in the world that will give somebody 10 minutes to talk. So,
you're so right. Like every time I go on Fox News from time to time or whatever, and it's like, all right, you got your here's our 2 topics. You got 3 minutes. Right. Like, what kind of stupid thing is this? Like, what are we even doing here? But you're just filling time, right. And you're right. I think that was just to make drama last night, huh?
Yeah, and it encourages non-thinking. It encourages talking points, and it sets up situations where people just don't really need to have evidence for the things that they say. They just assert what they want.
Yeah, you're right.
And
assert the one sentence and move on.
Right, and we saw that from Joe Biden last night in a couple different instances. I mean, I guess the one that will get the most play is where he said that Green New Deal will pay for itself, and it's great, but no, I don't support the Green New Deal. And you go to his website, and he says, yes, I do support the Green New Deal. So, obviously, they say that is an issue with fact checkers, but not really. I mean, if he'd have more time to kind of draw it out, I think you would get to, maybe he would dig himself deeper into a hole. Sure.
Yeah.
But people want to see that.
I also think Wallace, because we did the first segment again about the precious format. And with longer form, you can let the conversation kind of go where it goes. And every time, like sure, you bring up Obamacare, and then it turns into Roe v. Wade, and then we're having an abortion conversation. Okay. Right. But like that happened, and Wallace is like, no. We have this preordained 15-minute block about healthcare. We can't deviate. It's like, well, who cares? Like, just talk it out. Now, I remember you sent a tweet last night about how the Republican Party just continues to fail their candidates when they do this. Why did they sign up on this?
Yeah, I mean, who sets up debates like this? I don't know. I really don't understand. You cannot get both sides to agree on. I mean, really, that's the thing, because the mainstream media, the guild of journalists is 98% liberal. These are the people that they have to choose from. But as we were just saying, they need to go outside of the guild. They need to go outside of their, of the usual suspects, and get somebody like Rogan, get somebody who there are more people in the world that that both of these parties could agree on than there are journalists. So I think finding somebody outside of that world would be good. Why the GOP keeps setting themselves up like this is beyond me.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing for a moderator is someone who's curious. There's no genuine curiosity out of Chris Wallace last night. And I think that's why Joe Rogan is so successful. He's just a curious guy. Let's talk, this is your foreign policy guy. So anything noteworthy about foreign policy come up last night at all that's worth discussing?
Well, the big thing was it was noteworthy in its absence. Trump is very good on foreign policy, at least, we didn't expect him to be, many people didn't expect to be in 2016, but it turns out that, in my opinion, he's been America's best foreign policy president in the last many, many decades. In terms of what he was able to accomplish, not only with making peace deals, but also with getting our allies in Europe to sort of pay their fair share of expenses, and in so doing, he revitalized that alliance, and he made them. He made some of our European allies kind of have to remember why the alliance is important in the first place. But there were no questions on that, of course, because there were such questions were to Trump's benefit. There were no questions on immigration or homeland security policies. I think those two are synonymous. because anytime you talk about immigration, Trump's numbers go up. So I think that was a very, I think that was a calculated thing on the part of Chris Wallace and the moderators to keep that issue off the table.
You mentioned something that I've been kind of thinking about, and I want to get your take on. So I've been asking this question to people. I say, how has the Trump administration personally negatively affected you in your life? Right? And it's a very specific question. And a lot of people I ask it, they'll come back and they'll change it. They'll say, well, what you really mean to say is, how has Trump affected Americans? And I'm like, no. How has the Trump administration personally affected your life? Because everyone's running around with their hairs on fire, screaming about how awful he is. I'm like, well, give me an example of how he's really negatively affected your life. Anyway, so what I've noticed is almost every time, what this conversation ultimately ends up with, their argument is, well, world opinion about Trump is at an all-time low, or our moral standing around the world, or this poll of Europeans has a low approval rating of the president. And it's like this very cosmic global thing about how the world hates Trump, which is the exact opposite of the original question I'm asking. Anyway, does that make sense? What do you think of that? And what is the world's thought about America? Does that even matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a great question because it drills down exactly to the point, and it makes people think. It makes people think about really what it is media and the things that they may hate about Trump. Why do they hate these things about Trump? It's because the media has told them to do it, and the things that are in their observable lives are different. For example, if people are enjoying the economy and they think the economy is good for themselves, the media has a way of making people think that, hey, while I've got it pretty good, I know that my neighbor is suffering. So they have a negative view of the economy. But yeah, I mean, to your point about world opinion, of course it doesn't matter. World opinion is going to be negative. I mean, at the end of the day, when America does things that advance its own self-interest, world opinion hates us. World opinion hates us when we're not, European public opinion will hate us if we're not deferring to Europe. So either we defer to Europe and chase their public approval, or we do our own thing and we do what's best for us, and we risk them not liking us so much, even though in the scheme of things they still like us. I mean, European anti-Americanism is a thing that is always in fashion and always will be in fashion. It's part jealousy, it's part, if you think about it, it's not really that different from blue states looking down on red states. It's the same thing and for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's interesting. Last question, because this came up, and we played a clip of it earlier to make a different point about how Biden could just make any accusation, and if Trump interrupted, then Wallace would scold him. But what's this Russian bounty story? I never really followed this one. What's the claim, and is there any truth to it?
Well, there was a claim in the New York Times that has really been debunked, but more than that, it's not a thing that anyone has said has happened. It was an allegation that the Russians are paying per head for Afghanis to kill American soldiers. Okay, fine. Where's the evidence for it? There's no evidence for it. Would they be above something like that, the Russians? No, of course not. But it's still not a thing that we can document that is going on. I mean, it's yet another silly accusation. I mean, this is sort of pitch perfect, deep state left accusation, because it's a thing that sort of would exist in the realm of classification. So you can run a newspaper article saying, we have these sources that claim this thing, And when people want to know about the thing and more details about it, they say, no, I'm sorry, it's classified.
Yeah. Why would it even be?
So
I mean, listen, I obviously don't want Russian bounties, right? So that is bad, are on our heads. But why would that be Trump's fault if that were even true? Or why is that an attack against Trump?
Right, because what Democrats want to do is they want to make it seem like Trump is soft on Russia. So they'll say, oh, he doesn't care. He hasn't bombed Moscow because of these things already.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, there's nothing that is more irresponsible in national security than playing games like this. Phantom accusations and stuff. It's terrible.
Yeah. Hey, we got to run, Dave. Appreciate talking to you. DAVE Dave Reboy, REABOI on the Twitter. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you.
Take care. You too.
Okay. We'll do one more analysis of the judicial aspect of last night coming up next. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. So obviously, the Supreme Court is going to be the next big thing that we're all going to talk about for the next few weeks, in light of everything else going on as well. And on our special on Friday, we're going to talk about court packing as well, and the history of that with our good friend Adam Carrington from Hillsdale College. But right now, a perfectly timed book. Ilya Shapiro is the director for constitutional studies at the Cato Institute, and he's got a new book called Supreme Disorder, Judicial Nominations and the Politics of America's Highest Court. Mr. Shapiro, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right.
Good to talk to you. So real quick about the debate last night, other than it being, ridiculous. Anything Supreme Court-wise that stood out to you in last night?
Yeah, I was heartened to see that the first segment was, or at least was supposed to be, about the court. We didn't get into much substance. Joe Biden did not promise not to pack the court. That was somewhat news, I guess. During the primaries, he said he wouldn't do it. Now he's hedging his bets, and I imagine if the Democrats win big in both the Senate and the White House, that's something that he'll be pushed into.
Why has Biden not released a list of his nominees? Or is that something that only Trump has done and maybe a presidential candidate shouldn't do?
Well, when Trump did it 4 years ago, that was the first time a presidential candidate had done it. And it's because Trump was in the unique situation of a lot of the Republican Party not trusting him on this issue or anything else. And so to solidify a lot of that vote, he said he had to put out this list of very solid, originalist, conservative type judges, and that helped him keep his coalition together and frankly wouldn't have won the election without that Scalia vacancy. And now he probably did it to put more pressure on Biden as well. The reason why Biden isn't doing this is, first of all, the people that would be on his list probably wouldn't be that popular. Generally, the issue of judicial nominations and the type of judges, the type of legal theories that the parties would empower, that benefits the Republican candidates more than the Democrats. And also, Joe Biden himself has a kind of a checkered history with Supreme Court nominations, having been the chairman of the Judiciary Committee for both the Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas hearings.
Oh, yeah, geez, you're right. Let's not forget about that. Real quick thought on Amy Coney Barrett and how this confirmation process will go and her as an originalist.
I mean, she is solid. And, I'm sure there's going to be things on which I disagree with her, but, nobody's perfect. But she's, if you watch her opening remarks when she was introduced, I mean, that grace, she was disarming everybody. I think probably caught the Democrats flat-footed. And, there's not going to be a possibility of attacking her and leaving a mark. Just so smart and charming and gracious.
I think that's right. She's unassailable. So I don't know if you want to get into the politics of it, but what do you think the Democrats are going to do? Because they can't attack her like they did Kavanaugh.
Well, they're starting to attack, their messaging, their focus group clearly tell them that talking about health care and Obamacare helps them. So they're trying to say that she would vote to strike down Obamacare. Although this case that the court is hearing this year is very different from the one 8 years ago when John Roberts, transmogrified the mandate into a tax in order to uphold it. And so I don't think there's even a couple of votes, let alone her being the deciding vote to strike the whole thing down. Again, I'm a constitutional lawyer, not a political operative. I would have thought it would have been smarter for the Democrats just to push their process argument that they shouldn't confirm someone this close to an election, boycott the hearing, say this is nothing personal, Judge Barrett, we think you're perfectly fine, but like with Merrick Garland, this isn't about you, that sort of thing. It seems like that ship has sailed. They're already into more of the substance, but who knows?
Hopefully we can talk again about the Obamacare case specifically, because it keeps coming up. And as you said, I've heard before too that it's not going to get struck down, right? Obamacare is not going to go away because of this, no?
Yeah, there's some questions of even if the mandate is invalidated, which is toothless now. This is the issue, is Congress has zeroed out that penalty tax that you would pay if you didn't have insurance. There could be other regulations tied to it that would need to fall, but certainly not all of it, not the guaranteed issue, the pre-existing conditions, those sorts of things that are the most popular parts of the law.
Yeah, and no one understands that. So I'd love another day we could take some time with that. We've had this general theme on the show. I like history, so we bring a lot of history into this. And I just feel like everyone's always running around with their hair on fire, just nonstop, freaking out over everything. I saw someone tweet the other day, I haven't seen this much hysteria since yesterday, right? So it's just nonstop. And I think it's the same thing with this court, or my instinct now is to believe that this is true with this judicial process as well. But is the anxiety and the freaking out and the politicization of this nominee, is that a unique thing, or is this just kind of how it always has been? We just think it's unique today.
Well, it's unique in the sense that it's the COVID era and we're all freaking out or not, or commenting from our own homes, our home offices, like where I am now. But historically, politics has always played a role in the nomination and confirmation battles, certainly in the modern era, really starting with Bork in '87 with the televising of the hearings, and then the growth of media and the 24/7 cycle, and now social media. That has accentuated everything. But certainly we have had big controversies in the past. I would argue that the most controversial nomination to the Supreme Court we've had was way back in 1916 with Louis Brandeis, the first Jewish nominee, also a kind of a crusading social progressive, very controversial. That was it was so controversial, that was the first time they started public hearings on the nomination. And it's not like we've had hearings from time immemorial. That's when it started. Brandeis was eventually confirmed, even though it was thought unseemly for the nominee himself to testify, so he didn't appear before the Senate. It took about 5 months, just under 5 months, the longest of any confirmation, but he made it through. But right after that, another justice, Charles Evans Hughes, resigned to run against Woodrow Wilson in the presidential election. So if you thought 2020 or 2016 were crazy years of the confluence of politics in the Supreme Court, I see that and raise you in 1916.
Hold on. So this would be like John Roberts resigning and running against Trump, or right? Is that what that is?
Or Kagan, or Kagan, or Sotomayor? Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Wow. Whoa. What did people think of that? What was were people like, oh, that's inappropriate, or was that fine?
We've had in our history justices who were governors before or after the court. This wasn't always people's last jobs that they stayed in for 35 years or what have you. Some people would think, I've done this now. Now what's my next thing? Others, William Howard Taft thought that indeed the Supreme Court was his big dream. He became Chief Justice, and the presidency was a stepping stone to that. So different people think in different ways about it, and certainly the way that politics has played has changed. Where we are now, that's different, that's new, is that we're at the confluence. So first of all, the court is really powerful and important because the federal government is really powerful and centralized. That hasn't always been the case. But also we have several trend lines whereby divergent interpretive theories map onto partisan preferences at a time when the parties are more ideologically sorted than they've been since at least the Civil War. So, of course, when each of these seats is so powerful and the parties are so divided and the legal theories are apart, you're going to have these drag down full metal knuckle mixing metaphor battles for these seats.
Have legal theories been as divergent in the past as they are now? Again, I don't want to, I think we're very chronocentric. I think people tend to be that, like this is the only time things have ever been like that. But that had to have been true in the 1800s, no?
Yeah, there were differences certainly over the slavery question. And in fact, probably the most contentious few decades would give the last couple of decades a run for its money would be between Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln. So roughly the 30s through the early 60s, when only 8 of 21 nominees were confirmed. So certainly when there's different, I mean, it's not necessarily divergent interpretive theories, some of that, but just the way that the politics plays in and how you have to satisfy different factions of your party and the cross currents, different regions at that time as well, the southern seat, the New England seat, the western seat, all of these sorts of things. So there are these different undercurrents and this dance between the president and the Senate and outside interests.
So in the so you said, to confirm, 1830s to 1860s or so, there were 21 nominees to the Supreme Court, and only 8 of them got confirmed.
That's right. That's right. On the other hand, 1875 until 1968, I think there was only one who was rejected. So and so all of the politicking came before the nomination. Once there was the nomination happened, they generally got through.
Oh, interesting. What's because you said there were no hearings prior to Brandeis. When we see 1916.
1916.
So hearings are a new thing. What about the advise and consent part of the Constitution? The consent makes sense, right? That's the vote. But the advise part, I remember reading something that George Washington thought that the advise part was like after the confirmation or something. Like what did the advise part mean in the Constitution?
Yeah, it can be anything that the Senate makes it out to be. In our history, about 3/4 of nominees have ended up serving. And so we've had 10, including Merrick Garland most recently, who have not been acted upon. So it's not unique not to act on a nominee. There have been a few who were, quote, postponed indefinitely when that was a little procedural shenanigan that the Senate could pull. But, George Washington had a nominee rejected. I mean, it's not like there was some period where the Senate just rolled over for the president.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And actually, to give you some more history, the determining factor for whether a nominee is confirmed is generally whether the same party holds the White House and Senate. When you have unified government, the confirmation rate's about 90%, and when it's split, it's lower than 60%. And there's an even bigger difference during election years.
And I'm sure there's a difference between the judicial philosophies of those judges. I bet that when the government's the same, I bet the judicial philosophy is probably more extreme than when the government split, and I'm sure that's all by design by our founding fathers. I got to go here, Ilya, but real quick, is the argument that the court has become more political, or sorry, the nomination process has become more political because the court itself has also become more political? Is that fair?
I wouldn't say the court's become more political. The court's become more powerful and decide so many of the major political controversies in our country. But I'm not, we have to separate the idea that the process of getting them there is political versus what they do when they're there. I'm not casting aspersions on the justices saying they're behaving like JV politicians.
But is the Supreme Court's role today proper and constitutional, or do you think they've gone beyond their bounds?
I think all of the branches have contributed to the warping of power, the over-centralization of power in Washington, as well as the skew within Washington, such that Congress isn't deciding these controversies, but punting them into the executive branch, into the administrative agencies, which are then sued, and the court ends up resolving that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it's got to end somewhere. All right, Ilya Shapiro, go get the book, Supreme Disorder, Judicial Nominations, and the Politics of America's Highest Court. Love that perspective. Thanks, Ilya. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike.
And Ilya's from Cato Institute, of course. All right, that's our show. We'll do it tomorrow. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word.